Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news. This is Bloomberg Businessweek Daily, reporting from the magazine that helps global leaders stay ahead, with insight on the people, companies, and trends shaping today's complex economy, plus global business, finance, and tech news as it happens. The Bloomberg Businessweek Daily podcast with Carol Massar and Tim Stenivek on Bloomberg Radio.
President Trump directed U.S. government agencies to stop using Anthropic's products, capping a feud between the AI giant and the Pentagon over safeguards on its technology. The president said before 4 o'clock today, there would be a 6-month, quote, phase-out period for agencies, including the Defense Department, that are using Anthropic's products. I thought, and we're going to bring up his tweet in a second. Here it is. The left... Truth Social, not a tweet, I'm sorry. The left-wing nut jobs at Anthropic have made a disastrous mistake trying to strong-arm the Department of War and force them to obey their terms of service instead of our Constitution. Their selfishness is putting American lives at risk.
Meantime, we've also seen, according to Axios, saying that Anthropic and the Pentagon are still negotiating. A deal is still possible.
Axios was after
the president's post on social. Axios reporter citing a source on Anthropic and Pentagon in an ex post. So I don't know. Clock ticking, though, here.
Well, fortunately, we got Katrina Manson back with us. She's Bloomberg News reporter who covers tech and national security. She's also the author of the forthcoming book, Project Maven, a Marine colonel, his team in the dawn of AI warfare. The book comes out next month, but you can pre-order it now. She joins us from New York. Katrina, congratulations on the book. I'm looking forward to reading it. I know it's been a long project, but it's totally related to exactly what you have been reporting on in recent weeks and sharing with us on our program. The back and forth that Carol and I just had, where is this Anthropic Pentagon relationship right now?
Well, it's very significant that the president's weighed in and called this directive. But of course, you're quite right to say that to indicate this is the man who knows the art of the deal, and things are going to keep going. Unraveling Anthropic over the course of 6 months will be extremely complicated. They're in the tech stack, they're in the intelligence community, they are used in combat operations on Maven's smart system, which is a Palantir system. It's not impossible to replace them. And of course, the president is suggesting a 6-month phase out. And even Anthropic, when they gave their very strong statement yesterday, said, we will help if the choice is to remove us. We will make sure that transition is smooth. And then you've got now Warner calling in from the Senate Intelligence Committee, suggesting this is a politicized attack. And of course, the president did call them left-wing nut jobs. So he is concerned that this is not really a debate about the future of war, but a jostling for position over which company gets what. And if the Axios report is correct, I don't have separate reporting to that, then this could be still part of that process. Hegseth, of course, the Secretary of War or Defense, had given us until 5:01. So we'll also still be waiting to see if the Defense Department wants to weigh in.
You know, I think about national security with all of this stuff, AI, you name it, raw materials, everything. And I just think about if this comes undone, is that a loss for national security for the United States?
It's quite hard to work out the ways in which the US military machine is dependent on AI at the moment. Well, that's what I've been trying to do in this book, honestly. And it has threaded through. Of course, LLMs and agentic AI, this is something that is being rapidly adopted, but also really, really unknown and unreliable in many cases. So the military and the intelligence community, both of them in terms of national security, have been experimenting from pretty early on after that first moment when ChatGPT was launched back in, when was that, November 2023? And they have started really trying to develop their own systems. Obviously, Anthropic is the interesting one because they're on the classified cloud. They found a way to do it, and they were threaded through a number of systems, mostly helping things run faster. If you imagine an enterprise service, but just happening in a classified way, really trying to draw on data points and make things go swifter, quicker, connect things, smash through bureaucracy. In that sense, that could slow national security down. But of course, the thing they said that they were worried about wasn't politics. It was autonomy. They didn't want their tools being involved in autonomous warfare because they're not ready. And we were increasingly beginning to hear from military leaders, not just the campaigners who you would expect to have a problem with this, like Stop Killer Robots, but actually the former leader, the former director of Project Maven, Jack Shanahan, who's a retired 3-star general, said, look, LLMs are not ready for prime time. He put that post out yesterday and just said this technology isn't ready yet, which is very much in line with what Anthropic had been saying.
I want to go back to the Axios. We have a little bit of a fuller read through on this. Anthropic and the Pentagon still negotiating ahead of the Pentagon's 5:01 p.m. ET deadline to reach a deal, citing a source familiar. Axios goes on to say if no deal is reached, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth plans to declare Anthropic a supply chain risk. This 5:01 deadline, might it, Katrina, be extended? Where did this deadline come from?
Like a TikTok deadline in the past?
You know, deadlines can move.
Yeah.
I mean, so much of this is performative, isn't it? We've seen a lot of very loud public statements. As we actually have learned, the disagreement on paper comes down to the term as appropriate. There have been letters going backwards and forwards. So we've been told that are about whether human judgment will be used over the use of force in an autonomous situation. And we had Emil Michael talking to Bloomberg TV, much more cool-headed than he was last night. Last night, he was calling Dario Amodei a liar and saying he had a God complex. This morning with Bloomberg, he was saying, look, talks are carrying on. So I think, of course, this is a negotiation. They've acknowledged, I think, in multiple ways that they're really dependent on Claude and that Claude is really good and they want to keep using it. Claude doesn't want to be involved in autonomy. And I was learning, of course, that if the department pushes ahead with autonomy in the way it wants to do, it could be quite hard to have one system that allows autonomy and another system that doesn't touch autonomy that Claude would be on. So they do need to work out exactly what their red lines are, even if they're coming to a much softer accommodation behind closed doors now. But, you know, with the president weighing in and with Hegseth maintaining this position, there's no reason to think they will reach a deal at 5:01.
So, Katrina, just in the last 20 seconds that we have with you, when I was on my way home yesterday, this crossed. It was just minutes after you were on our program talking about it. But it said, it was this post from Anthropic's Dario Amodei saying that the company cannot accede to the Department of Defense. Did you learn anything, just in 30 seconds, did you learn anything new in that post last night?
Yeah, I've got it right in front of me, actually. I thought there was a very interesting part of it, just a detail to pick out, which is we've offered to work directly with the Department of War on R&D to improve the reliability of these systems, but they have not accepted this offer. I thought that was very interesting. They are saying, we want to help you use this wild technology in a reliable way and help us help you.
Which is similar to what the Undersecretary of Defense said earlier this morning. You go to a dinner party, you want to sit next to somebody like Katrina. I'm just going to put that out there.
Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Businessweek Daily coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Businessweek Daily Podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 2 to 5 Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Or watch us live on YouTube.
All right, that's the latest on the U.S. economic picture. Let's get to two companies looking at our economy and the issue of affordability, especially when it comes to housing and really the ability to own a home. As we know, home ownership in the U.S., it offers stability. It's an offer, a way to create wealth. And this is a really big part of the American dream. I laugh, but it's not funny because a lot of people, between U.S. home prices outpacing wages, it's made it really difficult for many to afford a home in the United States.
Well, two companies are looking to address that. We're talking about Compass and Rocket companies. The two announced a 3-year strategic alliance aimed at expanding home listing inventory to create a significantly enhanced and affordable home buying and selling experience for American families.
All right, we wanted to know more. Also, we should point out our next two guests, both of them had earnings last night. Compass shares are a little bit lower. The company forecasts first quarter revenue that topped analyst estimates, and shares of Rocket rallying after the mortgage finance company posted revenue and adjusted profit for the fourth quarter that beat the average analyst estimate, which means we're going to get to the macro as well. With us in studio, Robert Refkin. He's founder, chairman, and CEO of Compass International Holdings, and Varun Krishna, president and CEO of Rocket Companies, both joining us here in studio. welcome. Like you are the perfect guests to have right now with so much going on. I want to talk about the partnership, though, and how it gets to the affordability issue. Let's go right there. Robert, or whoever wants to kick it off, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a good partnership. You go.
Well, look, what this represents is the number one largest brokerage in the world, Compass, 340,000 agents, 9 brands, Compass, Corcoran, Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, Better Homes and Garden, ERA, Century 21, Christie's, and Ad Properties, partnering with the largest mortgage company in the world to help sellers by giving them something they've never had before, which is the ability to market their homes to 60 million buyers without days on market and price drop history. Ultimately, there's a risk to listing, negative insights that are on listings that we are taking off the listing so for the first time so that they can market without risk. There should not be these artificial barriers.
Yeah, Broom, come on in here, because if we think about affordability, what we hear over and over again from economists is, mortgage rates matter. It matters how much people are thinking about buying and their salaries and how they think about affordability. But it really has to do with supply. Yep. And if we're not building more homes in places where people want to live, we're just not going to make a dent. How do you do it if you're not a builder?
I think it's a very complicated problem, and I think it's really important that industry participates and does its part. And the purpose of this partnership is really to attack affordability in 2 ways. The first one is inventory. As Robert shared, we plan to bring, as a result of this partnership, 500,000 to 1 million listings to the market that are not accessible. And so,
why aren't they accessible?
Because part of the issue is that certain sites provide access to these private exclusives and coming soon listings. And these are inventory that really comes down to a more flexible way for sellers to be able to advertise their home. And what we think is that everyone is really focused on the buyer. That's obviously a very important side of the equation. But in some ways, the entire world has forgotten about the other side of the equation, and that's the seller. And so this partnership first is focused on the seller. It's about lowering the barrier to entry so that more listings can be advertised online, on Redfin, and on Compass. So that's one side of the equation. The second side of this is a mortgage partnership, and that's where we are building a more integrated platform for buyers so that buyers that use Rocket Mortgage, that use Compass, can actually save money. They can get up to $6,000 in closing cost coverage. They can save up to 1% on payments for the first year. And so it's a very multifaceted challenge to fix affordability. But what's great about this partnership is it fixes things for both buyers and sellers on both sides of the ecosystem.
But I got to ask, one of the things that Tim and we've covered this a lot in terms of affordability. And yes, some of it is buying homes, affordable homes where they are needed. It's not just buying homes. But the other thing is a lot of folks have said, we need to pay people more, that it's an income thing. So are you guys going to give mortgages? Are you changing your metrics in terms of income and so on and so forth?
Like who qualifies?
Yeah, because that gets to the affordability issue too.
Yeah, I think, look, the reality is affordability, as you said, is much more than just supply and demand, although supply and demand are probably the major ways to attack the problem. But a part of this is you have to have more ways to qualify people. You have alternative ways to look at things like credit. You have to think about reform. You have to think about wage. You have to think about self-employed. We have diversified the way that we look at our population. You look at things like the creator economy. You look at the self-employed economy. So you have different ways that people make income, have credit. And it's really important, I think, to acknowledge that and to diversify the way you qualify folks.
So the idea in big picture is you increase supply, you get more homes listed out there. It frees up inventory for people to buy that first home, Robert. But yeah, go ahead.
So you mentioned developers and builders. Look, unfortunately, that will just take too long. If we attack the builder side, that will take 2 years to have even the most modest impact. The bigger impact,
and that's not really where you play.
The bigger impact, exactly. Well, we play on both, but the bigger impact is on existing home sales, and that's where there's been less inventory because so many homeowners are locked into low mortgage rates, and they don't want to lose that low mortgage rate to transfer to a 6% mortgage rate. So the way to expand the existing home sale market is to reduce the barriers to entry. And so let me give you some examples.
Yeah.
Why do sellers say, when's the right time to list? There shouldn't be a right time to list, but they're worried about days on market. Why is there a fear of what price should we go at? Well, there shouldn't be a price drop history. That shouldn't be a conversation. My wife would never want to sell her home. But if you ask her, Is there a price you'd sell your home?
Yes.
There's a price. There's always a price.
But don't those histories inform the potential seller? Doesn't that data show and help inform a buyer? Doesn't that provide more information to the market?
So look, if I were buying your company, I would love if your investment banker told me how long you've been trying to sell your company, how many times you dropped the price. But that's not what I'm buying. That's a negotiating point for leverage. If buyers deserve to know price drop history and days on market, sellers deserve to know how long has that buyer been searching, how many times they put in offers that fell through and fell out of contract. And so we believe if you, the buyer, what you need is you need more inventory. So to help you, the buyer, the best thing that we can do is just let the seller sell however they want. And if we do that, there'll be more inventory.
So then, wait a minute. So then now does the seller have more information, or you're just getting rid of it and it's just kind of a through?
We're just getting rid of it for the first time.
So you just list it and you go.
If you go to Australia, the word days on market and price drop history are not on the sites. They don't exist. The reason why is that system was built for sellers. Here, it was built because everyone's forced to put in the MLS, it was built for buyers. And so we're just trying to bring the pendulum back and give individual homeowners the same advantages as the builders. Builders market without days on market and price drop history, so we should give homeowners the same opportunity.
What makes you so sure this is going to work in terms of the affordability issue? Because I also wonder if you remove some of that information, to Tim's point, if there have been price drops, that ultimately brings down the cost of the price of housing. But if you don't have that and it just kind of stays and maybe doesn't really indicate what's happening at the broader market, doesn't that lead to price appreciation? And that doesn't get to the affordability issue.
I think there's two things to point out. I think the first thing is, I think no one can disagree that today there is no inventory, right? Like, we have an issue with the way the system works today, which is that we looked at some Redfin data, and so half of the homes that are listed right now have been on the market for 60 days plus. So we have a lot of stale inventory. You don't have a lot of new inventory. So
I even see that in my neighborhood because I like to check and keep an eye in terms of valuation.
There's not much inventory coming on market. Yeah. And so to me, it's less about some of these metrics. It's more just like, how do you create more inventory? More inventory creates more competition. It reduces scarcity, and that creates pricing advantage. And so the bigger picture for us is just, how do you attack the supply problem? Mm-hmm. Because without sellers, you're not going to have buyers, and every seller ends up being a buyer. And that's really what we're focused on here.
Robert, you were a data-driven guy. How do you measure if this actually works? Like, what's the metric?
We will see more inventory come to the market.
How much more inventory?
Before restrictions came into the industry through something called clear cooperation, which forced every individual American homeowner to put their listing in the MLS after 24 hours, 90% of our listings started off outside of the MLS system. And when that rule came into effect, we saw less inventory. And so I can't give you the exact number, but we will see how much more inventory we will bring to the market, and we'll share that with the public.
Will this work in any rate environment?
Absolutely. Just, there should be no fear to list. There should be no downside to list. There should be no barrier to list. You should be able to list however you want. Do you want to not disclose the price and say price upon request? Do you want to have how many photos you want? Do you want to have no photos? Do you want to have an address that just says 5th Avenue luxury penthouse without saying the exact unit number? Whatever you want. If you take away all those barriers, you will have more inventory.
Help me understand, too, what does this do to the selling process? The real estate agents who are selling properties, who often, sometimes I would say, covet certain properties. Does that change any of that?
Well, obviously, I believe deeply in real estate agents. My mom is a real estate agent.
That's what I'm trying to understand.
All my clients are agents.
Is your mom calling you and say, what the heck are you thinking about?
My mom supports this idea.
Okay.
She supports the partnership. But no, agents are at the center of this. And we both are companies with loan officers and real estate agents.
Yeah.
We are empowering the real estate professionals that are required to make the transaction happen.
The other thing I would add around the rate environment to that question.
Because you guys did kind of smile when I said what was going on with the 10-year and how we saw rates move down. Well, so it does impact this market.
It's great to see rates moving in a good direction. We think that gets more buyers off the sideline. But I think what's unique
Unless the economy's slowing down and nobody's going to be working.
That's right. What's unique about Rocket in particular is that Rocket has the home search experience. We have a servicing book. And because of that, we can acquire clients at a lower cost. And when you can acquire clients at a lower cost, you can help save them money on the overall transaction. And so you eliminate a lot of the friction, you become more efficient by using technology, and that turns into real savings in terms of lower rates and lower fees. And that happens in any rate environment.
So
that's what's unique about our business model.
Some of the mortgage origination costs, like some of these things will go away or be reduced or what?
That's right. And that's because many of the clients are buying, they're already homeowners that we service, and then they're buying their next home. And so the cost to acquire that client becomes significantly lower. And because we do a good job servicing them, we can then provide them with their next purchase, a cash out refinance, a home equity loan. And we can do all of that more efficiently because that cost of acquisition has come down significantly.
Well, we have a couple minutes left, and we want to talk a little bit about the macro environment and the individual companies. As Carol mentioned, both of you guys reported earnings late yesterday. Compass shares down about 1.5%. The company forecasts first quarter revenue that topped analyst estimates. When you look out at the landscape right now, where are you seeing signals of strength and where are you seeing signals of weakness, Robert?
So overall, we have more inventory, which has been the key bottleneck over the last 5 years, where just has not been enough inventory. So we have 9% more inventory than we did this time last year, but still less than pre-pandemic levels. Prices are basically flat to up 1%. We have 4% more pending contracts than we did this time last year. So things are okay. We're not out of the woods yet. Mm-hmm. Mortgage rates being at 3-year lows at just under 6%. I think the key is, can we see sub 6% mortgage rates, not for a day, not for 3 days, but for a season? If we do, then I think we will see strength in the market.
Varun, same question to you. What are you seeing when it comes to the macro? How does it compare from last year, a year ago, 6 months ago? And your visibility on the outlook?
Yeah, I mean, generally, when you look at all the different industry forecasts, we expect the mortgage market to be bigger in 2026 than 2025. I mean, the question is just how much bigger and how far up and to the right.
So more activity.
More activity, more purchase behavior, more refinance behavior. Obviously, as Robert said, we see inventory starting to creep up a little bit, which is good. We're starting to see rates cooperate, which is good. And I think that for the first time, you're starting to see a 5 handle on the rate environment. And that's going to bring a lot of buyers off the sideline. And so we do expect 26 to be better than 25. But a big part of this is just some companies have built a business model to be able to thrive in any rate environment. And that's kind of what our focus is.
We know the president is so focused on affordability. He's focused on making sure that people can get into homes. Have either of you guys had conversations with the administration?
We have. I mean, we have great relationships with everyone at the administrative world, and we support reform. We support affordability. We support new programs, new initiatives, anything we can do to create more buyers and sellers and improve the supply challenge that we have in this country, we support.
Was there anything in terms of a specific program that you would like or policy that you'd like to see the administration support?
Yeah, I'd very much like to see them eliminate NAR, the National Association of Realtors, clear cooperation rule that forces homeowners to put their listings in the MLS. It's not NAR's home, it's the homeowner's home, and they should have the freedom to market their home when, where, and how they want.
Great stuff. Please come back. Let us know how this partnership's going and the impact that you guys are seeing. Really appreciate it. Robert Refkin, founder, chairman, and CEO of Compass International Holdings, and Varun Krishna, president and CEO of Rocket Companies, joining us right here in studio. Gentlemen, thank you again.
Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Businessweek Daily coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Businessweek Daily Podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 2 to 5 Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app. Or watch us live on YouTube.
Shares of Duolingo are tanking today. The stock, in fact, right now down about 17%. It did, though, hit its lowest intraday since February of 2023, now down more than 80% since May of 2025, and about 22% of the float is short, so there's some real negative sentiment on the name. Shares sliding after the company said its drive to gain subscribers would mean slower earnings growth and narrower profit margins in the short term. Tim, you keep reminding us that there's a lot going on at the company, some transformations here.
Yeah, the company said it would step up investment in AI and sacrifice some degree of monetization in order to accelerate user growth and engagement. The goal, double the current number of daily active users to 100 million in 2028. Great to be talking again with a member of the Duolingo C-suite. Back with us, Luis von Ahn, co-founder, chairman, president, and CEO of Duolingo. He joins us from New York. Luis, always good to see you. We're going to talk about the quarter and the outlook in a minute, but I want to start big picture with AI because you've been thinking and researching AI for decades at this point. You're a recipient of a MacArthur Genius Foundation grant back in the year 2006 for working on AI. This is nothing new to you, what's happening right now. But answer the question for investors. Is AI a threat to your business?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think that we're in a unique point in time where, because of AI, we're going to be able to teach significantly better. Duolingo is by a wide margin the largest app in education in the world. And I think because of that, we're going to be able to really take advantage of this, AI boon to be able to teach significantly better. And our sense is that within the next few years, we're going to have an app that teaches as well as a one-on-one tutor, but also is as fun as a mobile game. And if we're really able to do that, I think there's just so much more that we can capture. So that's what we're doing. We're really shooting for that.
So jumping on the AI bandwagon, I guess what investors want to know is, what is Duolingo's advantage over potential new AI learning apps?
Well, at the moment, we're not particularly concerned with competition in terms of, other education apps. We have, for example, for language learning, we have about 85% of the market share of all daily active users of people who are learning a language. So we have huge scale. And what differentiates us is that because of that scale, we just have more data into how people learn than anybody else. And we can use that to train our own specific models. So we just have the advantage of scale, of being able to watch literally billions of exercises every day by people who are learning different things.
But as you know, this is moving pretty quickly, the AI impact, it seems. And to be fair, you are right. Like, we'll see. And you say this is, we're kind of early in on this process and the impact. But what does Duolingo offer that can't easily be replicated by a large language model? And how do you kind of view that competitive landscape evolving?
Yeah, there's a number of things. For one, with Duolingo, what we do is we try to build a habit of learning. For example, 15 million of our daily active users have a streak of longer than 365 days, meaning they have been using Duolingo for a year or longer and haven't missed a day. So we're really trying to build a habit for that. And this is why Duolingo is part game, part education. And that's, I think that's just the right thing. It just turns out the hardest thing about learning something by yourself is staying motivated. The content to learn has been there for a long time. So for example, it's, you've been able to learn a language by just reading a book for hundreds of years. That has been there. It's just what we do differently is we motivate people to continue doing it. And that's hard to get right.
So what are investors not getting right in your view? Carol mentioned some of the stock moves and now, down at a point that you haven't seen since February of 2023. What are investors missing here?
I think it's a matter of timing. On our end, we are trying to build a company for the very long term. We're trying to do something that, for example, in our shareholder letter, we said that we're shooting to have a double the daily active users that we have now. At the moment, we have a little north of 50 million daily active users worldwide. We're trying to have more than 100 million, but we're saying that that's going to take some time. And so we're concentrated in the long term. And, what we're doing is we're trading off this year's, financial metrics for a much larger thing in the long term.
Go ahead.
Well, I get that, right? Companies have to invest in order to provide growth going forward. And I think it's fair to say that we understand why investors, they're not loving your forecast for first quarter adjusted EBITDA. That's missing the mark from what the street was expecting. 2026 revenue, also that forecast missing. Same story for 2026 adjusted EBITDA overall. So you talk about building this to double your daily active users to 100 million. How long will that build actually take? And what kind of visibility do you have on that to kind of maybe reassure investors that this isn't something that takes longer while the AI world continues to challenge established players?
Yeah, we're the way we're seeing it is we're going to spend this year really working on three things, really. Teaching better, improving the free user experience, and also expanding to other subjects. I mean, by now we already teach math, music, and chess, and we've been growing quite a bit. About 15% of our active users are learning things that are other than languages. Our chess course has grown quite significantly. So these are the three things that we're working on, and we're going to be working on that for the rest of the year. And we're expecting that towards the end of the year, we're going to see some improvements in our year-over-year growth rate. We're still growing. I mean, we've had 5 years of really phenomenal growth. We IPO'd in 2021, and since then we've more than 5x'd our active users. So we expect that we'll continue growing pretty strongly.
Luis, is the idea in making changes to the free tier, is it to get more people who don't use Duolingo now to use the free tier, or is it to get those free tier users to upgrade to a paid tier?
Historically, what we have done is we have tried to, the way we generate value on Duolingo is there's two parts to it. One is how many active users we have. That's kind of like the size of the pie. That has grown quite significantly. And then there's how many of these people are paying us because we have this freemium model. That's, like the fraction of the pie that are payers. Historically, we have worked on both. We have worked on growing the pie and also growing the fraction of the pie that is paying, which is why our bookings have grown really significantly over the last 5 years. This year, we're mainly concentrating on just growing the pie. That is the number of people that are actively using Duolingo, because it is our belief that because of the moment that we're in, we really want to have as many people as possible actually learning something meaningful on Duolingo. And once we're able to do that, I mean, one of the main advantages that we have, certainly against new entrants, is scale. There's no other education app that has the scale that we have.
Well, great to always get a check on what you guys are up to, and really appreciate it. Love to hear more, too, as we go out throughout the year, how things are going.
I'm at 355, I think, on my Duolingo. How many days? Yeah, I'm almost at a year.
I think Sebastian actually said he's on, his streak is about 778. That's one of our producers. Hey, Luis, thank you so much. Luis Von Ahn, co-founder, chairman, president, and CEO of Duolingo. When we come back, a check on trading and stocks on the move. This is Bloomberg Businessweek Daily.
Stay with us. More from Bloomberg Businessweek Daily coming up after this.
You're listening to the Bloomberg Businessweek Daily podcast. Catch us live weekday afternoons from 2 to 5 Eastern. Listen on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app, or watch us live on YouTube.
The president posting about Anthropic and federal agencies. He's telling all agencies, the president that is, to stop using Anthropic. Federal agencies cease use of Anthropic's technology. Anthropic made a mistake to strong-arm the Pentagon. This is now a redhead crossing the Bloomberg terminal. The president posting on Truth Social about Anthropic and federal agencies. The latest, the president telling all agencies to stop use of Anthropic's technology. We're going to have Katrina Manson on the program in the 4 o'clock hour. There was a 5 p.m. Eastern time deadline. Yesterday, Anthropic's Dario Amodei came out just after our program ended and essentially said we're not wavering from our position about our technology not being used for these two things: mass surveillance of Americans,
correct,
and fully autonomous fully autonomous weapons.
Right.
Yeah.
But talking a lot about in terms of mass drones being used. And my understanding was that the Pentagon was going to be talking with Anthropic. So we're kind of counting down to the wire on that as well. In the meantime, we want to get to our own Eric Weiner, talk a little bit about the trade today, the week, the month. Ready to start a new one. Eric Weiner, senior editor, Equities Americas here at Bloomberg News in our Interactive Broker studio. Never a dull day. Interesting trade. Interesting trade. Where should we begin here as we are wrapping up February?
It's one word to use.
What?
Yeah, that's interesting is one word to use. I mean,
the market, stocks are down for the week overall.
Should we start with banks?
Well, yeah, because
yeah.
Well, yes, but I am also confused about a hot inflation print, but yields are down, and I'm trying to understand. That doesn't make sense to me. Is it just that we are so worried about the outlook here, the private credit worries, the private market worries? leading to, yes, what you said. So homage to you, Tim, in terms of banks.
Did you say that? Because that's actually what appears to be going on. I mean, you can't get a straight answer directly from like the bond market, but that does appear to be what's going on. Which is, I mean, the key word would be uncertainty. There's so much up in the air. It's because it's not just private credit. It's basically the whole lending landscape possibly being, at risk. And so you're looking at...
You're talking about corporate, retail, individual, everything.
Well...
Or what?
So there's risk that there's rising... There's rising problems in credit cards. There is, rising delinquencies across the lending spectrum. And then you have all of this private funding, which is less regulated and has been financing a lot of the technology growth that's been going on. So you have this big mishmash of risks that are flowing in ways that we can't really predict right now. What we do know, though, is that the last time there was a blow up, it got really ugly. So that's really what, the First Brands thing, all of the stuff that happened a couple of years ago is really scaring people right now. And if you look at who's exposed to it, it's much bigger companies and much more important and central companies, because you're talking about OpenAI, you're talking about Anthropic, you're talking about companies that are driving the technological growth that we need and that we're counting on. And if they can't get the funding that they are anticipating, then that spending that is ricocheting across the market could be pulled back. And that's really the underlying fear of everything going on with AI right now. So it sort of spills over into a whole bunch of different places. And we haven't even talked about Iran yet.
We're going to talk about Iran, but you've got me on the underlying fears about AI, and that's certainly one of them. Is the idea that maybe we won't see the results of all this spend. Another one is what happened with Block/Square last night, and a 40% reduction in force, and it has people thinking. And I'm sorry to beat a dead horse, but we've been doing this all day today because I think there are a lot of sense. I think there are a lot of questions still about is this idiosyncratic to Jack Dorsey and to Square, or is this something that is actually going to happen at many different companies with white collar jobs? Because it does raise market questions. And yes, the stock reaction for Square today is up. But then when you start thinking about this, okay, if all these companies can do more with half the number of employees, where do those employees go? And then what does it mean for their spending power?
So is Citrini right?
Well, yeah.
In other words,
we did all. I mean, look, I made my bones on that this week, but you're on the tip of the whole concern, which is that if you look at all of the technological innovation that has happened, over the last 100 years or so, mostly it's involved things that may kill a job here or there, but will ultimately increase jobs.
The horseless carriage, for example.
Yes, exactly. The automobile, which put buggy whips out of business, but then created a whole transportation industry. So this specific technology is designed to make things more efficient in a very specific way, which is to eliminate the need for you and I to be intermediaries. And that's white collar jobs. So the concern is very real. And Dorsey kind of got after it. I mean, he's running a successful business. They're making a lot of money. And if he can make things that much more efficient, then great for him. However, what we're hearing is that we are very, very far away from this. It's interesting, the Pentagon attacking Anthropic. Nobody would say that right now you need automated weapons. We're just not there yet. And the idea that we shouldn't have guardrails on this seems like very much being out in front, in the same kind of way that thinking that everybody is going to be replaced tomorrow is being way out in front. However, the longer term risk is, yes, that high-earning jobs, this is coming after high-earning jobs, which are really underpinning the economic growth, not just through production, but through consumption. And this could actually go right after those people that we need to be spending, which is scary.
Fortunately, between now and Monday, if we don't get replaced AI, I think I can say this, that you're going to join me for a special live conversation on Monday morning. I'll send out the details of it, but it's at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And we're going to talk about this exact thing, Carol.
Yeah, I don't know. I do worry about this circular financing that's confusing. And, I don't want to say Ponzi scheme or anything, because I think but this idea of, right? Like,
did you look at the OpenAI deal today?
Yes.
Oh yeah, we've been talking about it.
So,
do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I want to be careful. I don't want to accuse. I'm not smart, but
this is the risk. This is the risk. So, and realize that, and then take one step back,
right,
and realize that it's coming from private credit. So like if you look at OpenAI today, Amazon is going to spend $50 billion, and then OpenAI is going to spend $100 billion more on AWS. And all of this is coming from, Amazon has cash.
Right.
But their free cash flow actually is going to be negative next year. But the idea is that they don't really need the private.
Look at it, we're like, yeah, but it's okay.
It's okay. Well, but they don't really need the private market, but OpenAI does. So if all of that gets pulled back and they can't honor the $100 billion that they promised, that unwinds a whole bunch of expectations, including Amazon's expected revenues. Right. So how do you value the stock? And that's really the question.
When I go to our AI expert, Rachel Metz, brilliant, smart on this AI, and we say to her, I want to understand OpenAI's balance sheet. And she's like, me too.
Oh.
And so that to me is, we talk about the importance of transparency and understanding value, and yet we don't quite have it. And I feel like we're going to have to do this. You have 5 seconds.
Yeah. Well, that's really it. That's the danger of the private. Now, they're going to go public, so they will have the stock. But this is the danger of private companies.
Bow down to Eric Weiner. We do it because he is the best.
So killer. Eric Weiner, thank you so much. Senior editor here at Bloomberg News.
This is the Bloomberg Businessweek Daily podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Listen live weekday afternoons from 2 to 5 p.m. Eastern on Bloomberg.com, the iHeartRadio app, TuneIn, and the Bloomberg Business app. You can also watch us live every weekday on YouTube and always on the Bloomberg Terminal.